Hi, I'm Mark. This is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I want to bring you a review of the £23 fitness tracker from OMorc. So first, let's just clarify a couple of things. I picked up this £23 fitness tracker off Amazon to see what it was like, and actually it's not that bad, and so I'm going to bring you guys a full review, especially if you're a person who's wondering if that's better than going for a more expensive Fitbit. Now in this review I'm going to compare it to some of the features you get on a Fitbit, and it's worth stating that actually to start with it shouldn't be comparable to a Fitbit because Fitbits are much more expensive and much more premium products. However, there are a lot of similarities, and so this helpful comparison is worthwhile, especially if you're trying to decide whether you want to splash out on a Fitbit or if you just want to spend kind of 25 quid and pick up a cheaper one. So first, let's talk about the design of this device. It's actually got quite a nice simple design, fairly similar to the Fitbit also. There's no buttons on the device at all, and instead it works on a kind of touchscreen interface for navigating it, which involves long presses and short presses. Sticking with the design itself, it's perhaps a little bit on the chunky side considering there's no heart rate sensor. It is however quite narrow and looks quite good on your wrist. The device itself separates from the strap and provides you with a USB charging port. This means you don't actually need a cable to charge it, you simply plug it into a USB socket. This is a really nice touch and it charges in just 45 minutes. The strap itself is sturdy and quite comfortable, and it seems to fasten on well, although it's quite a big strap, but it does have lots of holes, so unless you've got really small wrists you should be okay. Next, let's talk about specification. It has a 0.91 inch OLED display. This screen clearly displays information on it, and it has a short press, long press touch system. My real criticism with this device is actually the touchscreen isn't as responsive as it could be. This means it's quite tricky to get used to. The device has built-in Bluetooth 4 for connecting to Android or Apple devices. This isn't the fastest Bluetooth, but it seems to do the job. It's also IP65 water resistant. This basically means that if you accidentally shower with it on, or if you splash it or you go running in the rain, you'll be fine, but you can't take it swimming and you shouldn't submerge it. Battery life is one of the things that I've been blown away with so far. I've been using it for about a week, and so far I've only gone down to about 2 bars of battery. This probably means for the average user you might just about get away with 2 weeks, but you'll certainly get a week and a half usage out of it. This is brilliant for a fitness tracker because it means you haven't got to worry about charging it all the time, especially if you want to use it to track sleep. Next, let's talk about setting up the device. Inside the box you get a set of instruction manuals and a QR code to scan to download the appropriate app. Once you've got that app downloaded, setting up the device is relatively easy and simply a case of pairing the device with your phone and doing a few simple setup instructions via the app. From the app you can also decide whether you want notifications to come through to your wrist, you can add up to 4 exercises to it to track, and a whole variety of other tweaks. Next, let's talk about usage of the device itself. From a main screen on the device you are shown the time, date, Bluetooth connection status and battery status. This loads up either when you tap the screen or when you raise your wrist. I found that generally when walking out and about, raising my wrist worked really well to display the time, but if you're laying down or kind of slouched on the sofa, it's a little bit more difficult to get that to display, so you tend to resort to tapping it. A short tap on the screen once it's awake shows you steps and then your calories for the day. The step counter seems pretty accurate, although it does pick up some movement when you're driving. The calories it tracks I think are active calories. This is basically the calories that you burn when you're active, so when you're performing an exercise or when you're doing lots of steps. If this is the case, then those calories burned aren't quite as accurate as a fitness tracker with a heart rate sensor because it doesn't have that data to feed into it, but they're probably not far off. Pulling down from the top or pulling up from the bottom of the device gives you the main menu. If you want to understand the symbols on this without playing around, you'll need to read the manual. A short tap on this main menu takes you through the different options. Sports is up first, which is this funny little square thing. Then you've got sleep mode, phone finder, display orientation, which you can set to be vertical or horizontal, which is a really nice touch. And then you've got the device shutdown option. A long press on each of these menu options either activates that mode or gives you a sub-menu. For example, a long press on the sleep mode puts the device into sleep mode, although you can set it to auto track from the phone app. A long press on the sports mode lets you select an activity to track. A long press on your chosen sport starts the tracking of that sport. This is really where the device falls down because in theory the long press, short press idea is quite good. However, the touchscreen isn't quite responsive enough or easy enough to get your head around to really get used to this very easily. It also means it's really easy to accidentally do the wrong kind of press and find yourself having to start again. When I've been tracking sports, I've found that I've perhaps needed to do this a couple of times to actually get it right. It's also worth spending a moment talking about the individual sports tracking. If I'm honest, the sports tracking mode is a nice option to have, but isn't particularly useful. For starters, the amount of sports that you can put onto it are fairly limited. You can only choose 4 to add on, and there's a really odd selection of sports that seem to focus mostly around sports rather than gym-based activities. For example, you can track football, but you can't track an elliptical machine. The individual sport tracking, however, does seem to be quite useful at tracking things like amounts of things done. For example, if you used to track sit-ups, it's quite accurate at doing this. Let's also talk about notifications. One of the really nice features about this device is it can show you the notifications from your phone. This can be things like calendar notifications, messages, incoming calls, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, you can get it on your wrist. These are fairly clearly displayed, although it doesn't display the entirety of longer messages. The problem with it, however, is that it simply mirrors the notifications that come through to your phone. There's no scope for customizing it. This means if you wanted to prioritize seeing something like calendar and text message notifications on your wrist, but didn't really care about Facebook, actually you can't do that. It's all or nothing. One of the nice extras of this device, and one of the things that's really useful considering the amount of battery life you can get out of it, is that you can track your sleep. Now, I've been using this via the automatic setting rather than telling it I've been going to sleep, and I've actually found that it works really well. In turn, when I've compared it to readings I've had from Fitbit devices or Apple Watch devices, I've found that actually the readings are fairly similar. When you sync the fitness tracker to your app, you can get all sorts of extra information about your sleep that you can't view on the screen itself of the device. For example, it gives things like total sleep, deep sleep, light sleep, and awake time. This sleep tracking is a really nice function to have. Finally, let's talk about the app itself, because it's a companion app that either makes or breaks these kind of devices. The app that works with this device is an app called Zerina Health. When you first go in the app, pulling down from the top, it lets you sync your device. My real criticism is that this takes quite a while to do. It does give you a kind of percentage update as it goes, but it feels like it takes forever. From the main screen of this app, you can see your steps and calories as per the last sync. There's not a constant feedback that you get with Fitbit. There's an empty heart rate sensor section as this device doesn't have a heart rate monitor. There's sleep tracking, and then there's things like weight and other data that you can input. You can choose what displays on this screen, so you can switch off that heart rate view if you don't want it. Clicking into any of the data on this screen gives you more detail and lets you go back to previous day's data. The next tab on the app is the Device tab. Here you can manage your tracker, you can add sports, you can use the remote camera mode to control your phone camera, you can set reminders or alarms for your wrist, you can decide if you want reminders to move, and you can view how to turn off reminders from apps. This last bit is essentially an instruction on how to turn off notifications on your phone. Clicking into the device options lets you alter things like time format, measurement units, auto sleep options, raise to wake, and check for updates. The final tab gives you your profile. Here you can see FAQs, settings, and work out how to send data from the app to Apple Health. This last feature is really good, especially if you use a different device a lot of the time. So I normally use an Apple Watch, and so while I've been using this, I've still been able to send my data to the same place. Generally speaking, the app is really clear to use, but many of the options are simply instruction pages rather than adding real functionality. The other function worth talking about very quickly is run tracking. If you want to use the GPS on your phone to track outside exercises, you can do this from the GPS Sports menu on the main screen. This lets you track runs, bike rides, and walks. This is a nice feature to have, but it doesn't add anything to your wrist itself, and so maybe a third-party app is a better option for this. But if you want to use this app, you can sync it with Strava as well. So what's the summary on this fitness tracker that is so close to the £20 mark? Well, for £23, this device is a bargain. If what you're looking for is a simple fitness tracker that picks up your steps and maybe it has a few added options like sleep tracking, then this is the device for you. It's also got a pretty nice design. Things like impressive battery life also really add to the value of this product. What lets it down, however, is that it's not a very intuitive device to use. This means to start with you certainly need to read the manual, but also on an ongoing basis the long press, short press navigation of the device is so difficult to get used to I still haven't got my head around it even after a week of daily use. If what you're looking for from a fitness tracker is something to help you train and to track individual sports, then this really isn't the device for you. However, if just tracking steps and day-to-day activity is what you're after, then actually this probably isn't a bad item for you to pick up. It's also worth noting that actually if having a heart rate sensor is a deal breaker for you, then there are a few on Amazon that cost about 27 quid, so about a five or more. Now I don't really know what these are like, but if you read some reviews on there you might get a feel for those devices. Ultimately, any of these cheaper fitness trackers aren't going to perform as well as something like a Fitbit because there's an extent to which you get what you pay for. It's worth noting, however, that some of these cheaper devices do pack a lot in. I hope you guys have found this video helpful. Please like this video if you've enjoyed it. If you've got any comments about the device, stick them in the comments and I will try and answer all of those questions as much as I can. And I'll see you guys again soon.